Well, hello and welcome back. Here we are again. Year 11 Higher Homework number 2. Similar questions. The idea with all of these, it's similar questions until they're not. So we get a bit of practice at the same sort of question and see ourselves getting better. So here's my semicircle. I'm given the dimensions of the rectangle. The dimensions of the rectangle are 16 by 6. So the area of the rectangle is easy. Area of the rectangle, 16 times 6. Now, because it's in terms of pi, this would probably be a non-calculator paper. Let's check the focus of this thing. That's a bit better, I think, isn't it? So we need to do this without a calculator. 6 times 10 is 60, 6 times 6 is 36, so 96 centimetres squared. To work out the area of the semicircle, clearly I need the radius. And these are quite difficult because I need to spot where the radius is. I can draw that radius there, which means the triangle is a right-angled triangle, base height, height 6, and I can work this out using Pythagoras. Let's call it r for radius. R squared equals 8 squared plus 6 squared. 64 plus 36 is 100, so r must be equal to 10. You can spot it's a 3, 4, 5 triangle that's been doubled. If you can spot that and go straight to r equals 10, that's fine. So of course the area of the semicircle is pi r squared over 2. So 100 pi over 2 is 50 pi. So the unshaded area unshaded, is 50 pi minus 96 centimetres squared. And it says leave it in terms of pi, so that's why I suspect it's a non-calculator question. Number 2 is not a nice example of a density question. We know that density is mass over volume, and we're asked to work out the mass, so we multiply both sides by V. Mass is density times volume. We'll use that in a second. The volume of the whole medal is 45, and it's split into a ratio of 22 to 3 for copper to tin. Because of the numbers involved, I suspect this is a calculator question, so I have my trusty friend here. Let's work out the volume of the copper and the volume of tin. So copper, I divide by 25 times by 22. 25 parts altogether, 22 of them are copper. That's 39.6 centimetres cubed. And tin, I divide 45 by 25 and times by 3. 45 divided by 25 times by 3 is 5.4. I'll just check. 39 and 5 is 44. 6 and 4 is 1, so that makes up 45. So they're probably correct. So the density of copper is given. I've got the volume of copper. For the mass, for the copper, I want to do density times volume, so 39.6 times by the density that I'm given. 39.6 times by 8.96. 354.816. And it's grams per centimetres cubed, so it's grams. And the tin density multiplied by volume, 5.4. 7.31 times 5.4 is 39.474 grams. The question doesn't say how to round, and 3dp isn't ridiculous, so I just wrote everything that was on the computer screen. No, the calculator screen. Number 3. Let's just have a read of it. Okay, remember with a prism, and this is a prism, the volume is the area of one end times by the length. So the whole block that's a cuboid, area of one end, 20 times by 15, multiply that by the length, 27,000. It's centimetres, so it's centimetres cubed. That's for the whole block. The rod, well, that's a circle, radius 4, so it's the area of one end, pi r squared, times by 90, 16 pi times 90, 16 times 90 is 1440, 1440 pi. So the volume of the concrete of the block is the whole block, take away the rod, 27,000, take away 1440 pi, 27,000, take away 1440 pi. I'm not asked to leave it in terms of pi, so I suspect it's a calculator question. And I'm going to give this to 2dp. It's volume, so it's centimetres cubed given to 2dp. Okay, number 4. 4 is a nice bounds question. So, x is given as 400 to one significant figure. So the upper bound, well, I look at the next digit, make that 5. The lower bound, I go down by whatever the next digit is. In this case it's 10, so I go down by 50. So there's my upper and lower bound for x. Y is given as 25 to two significant figures. So the 5, the second significant figure, is what's been rounded. So the upper bound, I think of the next digit, 25.5. And the lower bound, again, I think of the next digit and take one off of here, 24.5. I want the maximum of x over y. So I want the upper bound divided by the lower bound. I always think of a division as sharing stuff out between people. I want to start with as much stuff as I can and share between as few people as I can. So that's what a division is. A division is sharing. So I'm going 450 over 24.5. 450 divided by 24.5 is 18 to the nearest integer, because the question says the maximum integer value. So I've gone for the maximum it can be and then rounded it to the nearest integer. It can't be 19 because these figures don't give me anywhere near 19. Number 5. Okay, what it's saying is, if this angle is 90, then what is angle x? If it's actually not 90, I think that's a 6, isn't it? Yeah. If it's not 90, what does that do to angle x? In the case that it's 90, this is straightforward SOHCAHTOA trigonometry. Remember what you do, you label your sides, opposite, hypotenuse, don't care about adjacent, that means it's sine. So sine x is O over h. I quote my formula, then I use my formula. Sine x is 6 over 10. So I need to undo the sine, I need to do inverse sine. And my calculator tells me inverse sine 6 over 10. My calculator is in degrees. 36.87 to 2dp. In actual fact, this angle is not 90 degrees. This angle is actually 10, 6, 85 degrees. Now I can't use SOHCAHTOA because that only works for right angled triangles. Now I've got to use a sine rule. That's easy enough because I know it's a sine rule. I've got angle, opposite side, angle, opposite side. So sine x over 6 equals sine 85 degrees over 10. Sine x equals sine 85 over 10 times 6. And then I'm going to do inverse sine of whatever that is. Inverse sine of sine 85 over 10 times 6. 36.7 or to 2dp 7.1. So the effect that so what's the effect of his assumption? His assumption is, assuming it's a right angle, so the effect is his answer is too big. So we've got to write that. His answer is too big, because that's the actual question. Okay, number 6. Oh no, hang on a minute, where are we? Right. Number 6. Root 2 times root 32 can be written as one big square root. And of course that's root 64, which is nice. And then rationalise the denominator. That means make the denominator into not a surd, a rational number. So remember, a surd is irrational. So I don't want to change the value of the fraction, I just want to write it differently. And if you multiply top and bottom by the same, it doesn't change the value. On top then, 21 root 7. On the bottom, 7. So I've rationalised it, then it asks me to simplify. Well, 21 lots of something divided by 7 is 3 root 7. I'm not going to put 3 root 7 over 1 because I don't need to. Number 7. After 2 years, how much more is investment B worth than investment A? So investment A, I save £150 a month for 2 years worth of months, and then I add 2.5%. So you might want to pause and think about why I've done that to add 2.5%. The answer to that is 150 times 2 times 12 times 1.025. 3690, and it's pounds. B, compound interest is added at 3% per year, so 3,500 times 1.03 for 2 years. Three, 7, 1, 3, 15. Remember, the question is how much is it worth? So I'll do a subtraction. 3713.15 take away 3690 is £23.15. Okay, number 8. Okay, so remember the gradient of a straight line, you look at the triangle and its height over width. So the first thing to do with this sort of question is just a little sketch to show what I'm talking about. 2 minus 5 there, 4 minus 9 down there. So the line, I can see, will have a negative gradient.
One of them has finished the...
I'm sorry, I'm just in the middle of recording this. The line has a negative gradient, and I need to know the height of my triangle divided by the width. The height, well, the y-coordinate goes from minus 5 down to minus 9. So the height gradient is, it's negative, the height is 4, The width, well, the x-coordinate goes from 2 to 4, so of course that's got a width of 2. So the gradient is negative 2. So A, done. I've shown the gradient is minus 2. I like to show that because you know if it's right or wrong. Oh, by the way, that was Miss Sutton. So there you go, just in case you wondered who it was interrupting us. For C, for part B, I need to find the actual equation of the line. And to do that, of course, I need to write it in the form y equals mx plus c. That's the equation of the line. Now I know that the gradient is minus 2. I also know that it goes through 2 minus 5. And I'm going to use those as x and y values. So I've got m, x and y. And in my equation then, I can use those to find c. So minus 5. M times x minus 2 times 2. So minus 4, c must be minus 1, mustn't it? Which means the equation of my line is minus 2x minus 1. If I've got an x value of minus 301, y is minus 2 times minus 301 minus 1. Well, that's minus 602, sorry, it's 602 minus 1, which is 601, and that's the y coordinate on the point, so yes, it goes through that line. You must show your work, and well, I have. There you go. Just see it at the bottom. Okay, number 9. Very similar to the last homework, this, isn't it? Remember, range is the biggest, take away the smallest. So I'm not going to work out the number of 40 kettles. Are they kettles? Whatever they are. I'm not going to work out the number of 40 items in each sample. I'm just doing the biggest and the smallest. So the largest probability looks to be 0.32. So sample A, 500 times 0.032 is 16. The smallest, that's D, 500 times 0.016. I don't need to calculate that because it's clearly half of A, but of course you could use a calculator if you want to. The range then, 16 minus 8, which is 8. Number 10, because it says 2 decimal places, I'm not even going to bother trying to factorise or complete the square. I'm going to go straight to the formula, but remember a quadratic equation has to be equal to 0. So I'm taking 10x off of both sides and I'm taking 4 off of both sides. And then I can say my A is 5, B is minus 10, and C is minus 4. Remember the formula, you need to know this, minus B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. So minus 10 is 10. Minus 10 squared is 100. Minus 4 times 5 times by minus 4 all over 2 times A, 10. And I'm going to type that into my calculator. I'll do the positive root first and then I'll do the negative root. And it wants answers to 2 decimal places. 10 plus the square root of, let's do my fraction for that's better. 10 plus square root of 100 minus 4 times 5 times minus 4 all over 10. 2.34, and then change the plus to a minus. Minus 0.34. Minus 0.34 to 2dp. Done. Number 11. W is directly proportional to y. So the key here, remember, directly proportional to equals k times. W is inversely proportional to equals k divided by x. So for A, when y is 4, w is 14. So 14 equals k times 4 So k must be 14 divided by 4, 3.5. So I can write w equals 3.5 times y. And these questions always have the same structure. We're given this initial statement, we're given a pair of values, so I can write this equation out with the value of k in. Work out the value of of w when y equals 9. W equals 3.5 times 9, 31.5. Part B, same thing really, use the other relationship. When x equals 2, w equals 5, that means that k must be 10, which means w equals 10 over x. So I've written down the relationship I'm given, put my numbers in, come up with an equation that connects the two, always the same with these questions. Work out the value of w when x equals 10. W equals 10 divided by 10, which is 1. Nice, straightforward, standard, direct and inverse proportional question. Number 12. If I have a whole circle, the circumference I can work out easily. Remember, the circumference is 2 pi r. If I'm just looking at a part of the circumference, an arc, what I do is divide by 360. That gives me the length of the arc for an angle of 1 degree. And then I multiply by the angle that I've got. So the arc length is the whole circumference divided by 360 multiplied by the angle that I've got. In this case, the angle that I've got is 60 degrees and the radius is 12. So 2 pi times 12 divided by 360 times by 60. Because it says leave your answer in terms of pi, and because the numbers are nice, I suspect this is a non-calculator question. So let's work it out without a calculator. Well, I can divide 12 and 360. So 2 pi times by nothing, well, times by 1 over 30 times by 60. That gives me, what does that give me? That gives me, I can divide top and bottom by 30. So 2 pi times by 2 over 1. 4 pi. Leave your answer in terms of pi. Okay, done. Centimetres. Okay, that's a lot. I look forward to next week's instalment. Bye-bye.